Want to start playing while earning? Then watch this video until the end. Now let's start. What is Axie Infinity? Axie Infinity is a digital pet universe where players battle, raise and trade fantasy creatures called Axies. It allows player to earn through non-fungible token or NFTs, and cryptocurrencies. It is a new mini-documentary called Play to Earn, Revolution. Now let me introduce to you the 6 normal classes in Axie Infinity. First, the bird Axie. This type of Axie have a class advantage over bug and beast Axies. However, at class disadvantage with plant and reptile. Each bird part belonging to an Axie adds 3 to its speed and 1 to its morale. The bird parts. The tail. There are 6 attack under the bird part tail. The first one is Swallow. It has 110% damage with 20% shield, but deals with 120% damage if this Axie attack first. Next is Feather Fan, Sunder Armor. It has 40% damage with 90% shield, and adds 20% shield to its Axie for each debuff it possesses. Next is the last one, Risky Feather. It has 140% damage with 10% of shield. Use this and it will apply 2 attack to this Axie. The fourth one is Cloud, Puffy Smack. It has 100% damage with 50% of shield. This will skip targets that are in last stand. The next one would be Grandma's Fan, Cool Breeze. It has 110% damage with 30% of shield. This will apply chill to target for 2 consecutive rounds. Last but not the least in tail, we have Post-Fight, All-Out Shout. It has 140% damage with 0% of shield. It will inflict 30% of this Axie's max HP to itself. Moving on, we also have the bird part, Back, which also have 6 cards under it that I would be explaining each again. Let's start with Balloon Pop with 40% damage and 0% of shield. Use this to apply fear to target for 1 turn. If defending, apply fear to self until next round. Second is Cupid, Heartbreak. It has 120% of damage with 20% of shield. This will apply morale to enemy for 2 rounds. Next is Raven, Ill Omened. It has 110% of damage with 30% of shield. This will apply Jinx to target for 2 rounds. The fourth one is Pigeon Post, Blackmail. It has 120% of damage with 10% of shield. This will transfer all debuffs on this Axie to the target. The fifth one is Kingfisher, Patient Hunter. It has over 130% of damage with 0% shield. This will target an aquatic class enemy if this Axie's HP is below 50%. Lastly, Tri-Feather, Triple Threat. With only 30% of damage and 10% of shield. Attack twice if this Axie has any debuffs. That brings us to our third bird part, the mouth. First, we got Double Talk, Soothing Song. With 50% damage and 0% of shield. Use this to apply sleep to target. Next, we have Peacemaker, Peace Treaty. It has 120% of damage and 30% shield. This would apply attack on target. On third, we have Hungry Bird, Insectivore. It has 110% of damage and 40% shield. This will target bug class enemy if this Axie's HP is below 50%. Last, we have Little Owl, Dark Swoop. It has 25% of damage and 0% shield. It will target the fastest enemy. Now let's move on to our last bird part, the horn, where we also have 6 cards to identify. The first one will be Eggshell, Egg Bomb, having 120% of damage with 0% of shield. Use this to apply aroma on this Axie until next round. Next is Cuckoo, Cockadoodle-Doo, having 0% of damage with 40% of shield. Use this to apply attack plus to this Axie. Next will be Trump, Air Force One. It has 120% of damage with 30% of shield. This will deal 120% damage when chained with another Trump card. Next we'll have Kestrel, Headshot. It has 130% of damage with 0% of shield. This will disable target's horn cards next round. On fifth, we have Wing Horn, Smart Shot, having 50% of damage with 30% of shield. Use this to skip the closest target if there are 2 or more enemies remaining. Last is Feather Spear, Feather Lunge, having 100% of damage with 50% of shield. This will deal 120% damage when chained with another Lunge card. This time, we will be moving forward to our next Axie class. The Aqua. Aquatic Axies have a class advantage over Bug and Beast Axies, but are at class disadvantage when it comes to Plant and Reptile Axies. Each aquatic part belonging to an Axie will add 3 to its speed and 1 to its health point. Now let's go to the first aquatic part, the tail. First, we have Koi, Upstream Swim, having 110% of damage with 30% of shield. Use this card to apply speed plus to this Axie for 2 rounds when comboed with another aquatic class card. Next is Nemo, Tail Slap, with only 30% of damage and 0% of shield. This will help you gain 1 energy when comboed with another card. Then we also have Tadpole, Black Bubble, with a 100% of damage and 40% of shield. This will apply Jinx to target for 2 rounds. Next we have Ranchu, Water Sphere, with 110% of damage and 30% of shield. Use this to apply Chill to target for 2 rounds. We also have Naviga, Flanking Smack. It has 100% of damage with 40% of shield. This will deal 120% damage if this Axie attacks first. Last on tail, we have Shrimp, Kite and Jump, with only 30% of damage and 30% of shield. This will prioritize his furthest target. Moving on, we have the Aqua, back. Let's start it with Hermit, Shelter. It has 0% damage with 115% of shield. This will disable critical strikes on this Axie during this round. Next is Blue Moon, Scale Dart, with 120% of damage and 30% of shield. Use this to draw a card if target is in last stand. We also have Goldfish, Swift Escape, with 110% damage and 20% of shield. This will apply speed plus to this Axie for 2 rounds when attacked. On fourth we have Sponge, Shipwreck, having 60% of damage with 90% of shield. This will apply attack plus to this Axie if its shield breaks. Next we have Anemone, Aqua Vitality. It has 80% of damage with 40% of shield. Successful attacks restore 50 HP for each Anemone part this Axie possesses. Last is Perch, Spinal Tap, with 100% of damage and 20% of shield. Use this to prioritize idle target when comboed with at least 2 additional cards. Next, we have the aquatic part, Mouth, led by Lamb, Angry Lamb, with 110% of damage and 40% of shield. Deal 120% damage if this Axie's HP is below 50%. Followed by Catfish, Swallow, having 80% of damage with 30% of shield. This will heal this Axie by the damage inflicted with this card. Next will be Risky Fish, Fishhook. It has 110% of damage and 30% of shield. Use this to apply attack plus to this Axie when attacking plant, reptile, or dusk targets. Piranha, Crimson Water, with 130% of damage and 20% of shield. It will target injured enemy if this Axie's HP is below 50%. And now we're down to our last aquatic part, the Horn. Starting with Babylonia, Shell Lab, with 100% of damage and 50% of shield. It will deal 130% damage when attacking an idle target. Next is Teal Shell, Deep Sea Gore, with 50% of damage and 80% of shield. This will add 30% to this Axie's shield when attacking. The third one will be Clamshell, Clam Slash. It has 110% damage with 40% of shield. Apply attack plus to this Axie when attacking beast, bug, or mech targets. Then we also have Anemone, Aquaponics, with 80% of damage and 40% of shield. Successful attacks restore 50 HP for each Anemone part this Axie possesses. On fifth we have Oranda, Hero's Bane, with 130% of damage and 20% of shield. This will end target's last stand. Lastly, we have Shoal Start, Star Shuriken. It has 115% of damage with 10% of shield. The target cannot enter last stand if this card brings its HP to 0. We're now at our third Axie class, the Reptile Axie. Reptile Axies have a class advantage over Aquatic and Bird Axie, but they were at disadvantage when it comes to Beast and Bug. Each reptile part belonging to an Axie adds 3 to its HP and 1 speed. Let's start with its tail part. First, we have Wall Gecko, Critical Escape, having 90% damage and 30% of shield. This will reduce damage taken by 15% this round. Next is Iguana, Scale Dart, with 90% of damage and 60% shield. Will generate 1 energy when attacking a buffed target. Next we have Tiny Dino, Tiny Swing, with 80% of damage and 40% shield. This deal 150% damage after round 4. On 4th we have Snake Jar, Jar Barrage, with 70% of damage and 10% of shield. Attacks that break this Axie's shield cannot do additional damage, can only trigger once per round. We also have Gila, Neurotoxin, with 100% damage and 50% of shield. Use Tiz to apply attack to poison targets. Last we have Grass Snake, Venom Spray. It has 10% of damage and 20% of shield. This will apply poison to target. Now let's start with another reptile part, the back. First we have Bone Sail, Rugged Sail, Ivory Chop, with 80% of damage and 70% of shield. Draw a card if this Axie's shield breaks. Next will be Tri-Spike, Spike Throw. It has 80% damage with 50% of shield. This will target enemy with lowest shield when comboed with 2 or more cards. We also have Green Thorns, Vine Dagger, with only 20% of damage and 30% shield. Double shield from this card when comboed with a plant card. Then we also have Indian Star, Bulwark, with only 20% damage and 70% of shield. It will reflect 40% of melee damage back at attacker. And next we have Red Ear, Slippery Shield, with only 10% of damage and 135% of shield. It will add 15% of this Axie's shield to adjacent teammates. Last for this part would be Croc, Nile Strike, having 80% of damage with 60% of shield. Use this to appy speed to target for 2 rounds. First in mouth we have Toothless Bite, Venom Bite, Sneaky Raid, with 20% damage and 40% of shield. This will target the furthest enemy. Next is Kotaro, Kotaro Bite. It has 80% damage and 20% of shield. You will gain 1 energy if target is faster than this Axie. Then we have Razor Bite, Why So Serious? It has 90% damage with 50% of shield. It will heal this Axie by damage inflicted with this card to aquatic target. We also have Tiny Turtle, Chomp, with 80% damage and 50% of shield. This will apply stun to enemy when comboed with at least 2 additional cards. Moving on to the last reptile part, the horn, we have Unko, Pinku Unko, Poo Fling, with 30% of damage and 40% of shield. This will apply stench to target, followed by Scaly Spear, Scaly Lunge, having 100% of damage with 50% of shield. Deal 120% damage when chained with another lunge card.
Next is Cerastes, Surprise Invasion, with 80% of damage and 60% of shield. Deal 130% damage if target is faster than this Axie.
Fourth we have Scaly Spoon, Tiny Catapult. It has 40% of damage with 60% of shield. It will reflect 50% of range damage back at attacker. Then we also have Incisor, Disarm, with 100% of damage and 40% of shield. This will apply speed to attacker for 2 rounds. Lastly, we have Bumpy, Overgrow Keratin, with 80% of damage and only 20% of shield. Used to recover 20 shield per turn. Now let's talk about other Axie class. The Beast Axie. Beast Axies have a class advantage over plant and reptile Axies, but are at class disadvantage with aquatic and bird. Each beast part belonging to an Axie adds 3 morale and 1 speed. To start it all, we have Cottontail, Luna Absorb. It has no inflicting damage or shield. Pick this and you'll gain 1 energy. We also have Rice, Night Steel. It has 80% of damage and 10% of shield. Use this to steal 1 energy from your opponent when comboed with another card. Next is Shiva, Rampant Howl, with 110% of damage and 40% of shield. This will apply morale plus to your team for 2 rounds if this Axie attacks while in last stand. Then we have Hair Dagger, with 120% of damage and 30% of shield. Draw a card if this Axie attacks at the beginning of the round. Second to the last we have Nutcracker, Nut Throw. It has 105% of damage with 30% of shield. Deal 120% damage when comboed with another Nutcracker card. And lastly we have Gerbil Jump, with 40% of damage and 20% of shield. This will skip the closest target if there are 2 or more enemies remaining. Now we're in other beast part, which is the back. With that we have Roland, single combat. It has 70% of damage and 0% of shield. Guaranteed critical strike when comboed with at least 2 other cards. We also have Hero, heroic reward, with 50% of damage and 0% of shield. Draw a card when attacking an aquatic, bird, or dawn target. On third we have Jaguar, Nitro Leap, having 115% of damage with 35% of shield. Always strike first if this Axie is in last stand. Next will be Risky Beast, Revenge Arrow, with 125% of damage and 25% of shield. Deal 150% damage if this Axie is in last stand. We also have Timber, Woodman Power, with 50% of damage and 100% of shield. This will add shield equal to the damage this card deals to plant targets. Finally we have Furball, Juggling Balls, having 40% of damage with 30% of shield. Strike 3 times. Next stop, the mouth part, starting with Nutcracker, Nutcrack, having 105% of damage with 30% of shield. Deal 120% damage when comboed with another Nutcracker card. Next is Goda, Piercing Sound, with 80% of damage and 40% shield. It will destroy one of your opponent's energy. Then we have Axie Kiss, Deathmark, with 90% of damage and 30% of shield. This will apply lethal to target if this Axie's HP is below 30%. Lastly we have Confident, Self-Rally, with no damage and only 30% of shield. This will apply 2 morale plus to this Axie for 2 rounds. And for the last part of Beast, the Horn, we have Little Branch, Branch Charge, with 125% of damage and 25% of shield. This will increase crit chance by 20% if chained or comboed with a plant card. Followed by Imp, Ivory Stab, having 70% of damage with 20% of shield. Gain 1 energy per critical strike dealt by your team. Next we have Merry Legion, with 65% of damage and 85% of shield. This will add 20% shield to this Axie when played in a chain. We also have Pocky, Sugar Rush. It has 120% of damage with 20% of shield. Deal 10% additional damage for each allied bug Axie. Next is Dual Blade, Sinister Strike, having 130% of damage with 20% of shield. Deal 250% damage on critical strikes. Last we have Arco, Acrobatic, with 100% of damage and 50% of shield. Apply speed plus to this Axie for 2 rounds when attacked. We're finally down to our 5th class, the Bug Axie. This Axie have a class advantage over plant and reptile Axies, but at class disadvantage with aquatic and bird. Each bug part belonging to an Axie adds 3 morale and 1 health points. As always, let's start with the tail part. First card would be Ant, Chemical Warfare, having 30% of damage and 40% of shield. It will apply stench to enemy for 1 round. Next we have Twin Tail, Twin Needle, with 30% of damage and no shield. It will attack twice when comboed with another card. Next is Fish Snack, Anesthetic Bait. It has 60% of damage with 90% of shield. Apply stun when struck by aquatic or bird class cards. Can only trigger once per round. We also have Gravel Ant, Numbing Laceration, with 30% damage and 40% of shield. Disable target's melee cards next round. We also have Pupae, Grub Explode, with 60% of damage and no shield. Deal 200% damage when attacking in last stand. Axie's last stand ends after it attacks. Last is Thorny Caterpillar, Allergic Reaction, having 110% of damage and 30% of shield. Deal 130% damage to debuff targets. Moving on to the back part, we have Snail Shell, Sticky Goo, with 40% of damage and 60% of shield. It will stun attacker if this Axie's shield breaks, can only trigger once per round. Then we have Garnish Worm, Barb Strike. It has 100% damage with 50% shield. Apply poison to target when played in a chain. Next is Buzz Buzz, Bug Noise. With 100% of damage and 40% of shield. Apply attack to target. We also have Sandal, Bug Splat. It has 110% of damage with 50% shield. It will deal 50% more damage when attacking bug targets. Next we have Scarab, Scarab Curse. Having 100% of damage and 40% of shield. Target cannot be healed until next round. Last will be Spiky Wing, Buzzing Wind. With 10% of damage and 30% of shield. Use this to apply Fragile to target until next round. Then we also have the mouth part. First, in this part is Mosquito, Blood Taste. With 70% of damage and 40% of shield. It will heal this Axie by the damage inflicted with this card. Second we have is Pincer, Sunderclaw. It has 30% damage with only 10% of shield. Randomly discard one card from your enemy's hand. Next we have Cute Bunny, Terror Chomp. With 120% of damage and 30% of shield. This will apply fear to target for 2 turns when played in a chain. Last is Square Teeth, Might Bite. With only 30% of damage and 0% of shield. This will add 100% more damage when comboed with another card. And for the last part of Bug we have the Horn. Led by Lagan, Mystic Rush. With 40% of damage and no shield. Apply speed to target for 2 rounds. Followed by Antenna, Bug Signal. It has 80% of damage with 60% shield. Use this to steal energy from your opponent when chained with another Bug Signal card. We also have Caterpillars, Grub Surprise. With 80% damage and 50% of shield. This will apply fear to shielded targets. Next is Pliers, Dull Grip. Having 120% of damage and 0% of shield. Deal 30% more damage to shielded targets. Next is Parasite, Third Glance. With 90% of damage and 50% of shield. It will randomly discard one card from your enemy's hand. Lastly, we have Leaf Bug, Disguise. Having 20% of damage and 20% of shield. Gain 1 energy when comboed with a plant card. We are finally down to our last Axie class. The Plant Axie. This Axie have a class advantage over aquatic and bird Axies, but at disadvantage with beast and bug. Each plant part belonging to an Axie adds 3 health points and 1 morale. So without further ado, let's start with the tail part like what we've always done from the start. First we have Carrot, Carrot Hammer. Having 70% of damage and only 40% of shield. You will gain 1 energy if this Axie shield breaks. Can only trigger once per round. Followed by Cattail, Cattail Slap. With only 20% of damage and just 30% of shield. Draw a card if struck by a beast, bug, or mech card. We also have Hatsune, Leak Leak. With 60% of damage and 80% of shield. When hit, disable the attacker's ranged cards next round. Next is Yam, Gas Unleash. It has 30% of damage and 20% of shield. It will apply poison each time this card is used to attack or defend. Then we also have Potato Leaf, Aqua Deflect. It has 70% of damage with 80% of shield. Cannot be targeted by aquatic cards if this Axie has teammates remain. Then we have Hot Butt, Spicy Surprise. With 90% of damage and 50% of shield. Disable target's mouth cards next round. Now that we're done with the tail, let's move on to another part, which is the back. Starting with Turnip Rocket. Having 60% of damage and 80% of shield. It will target a bird if comboed with 2 or more cards. Next we have Shiitake, Shroom's Grace. With no damage and only 40% of shield. Heal this Axie for 120 HP. We also have Biden's Cleanse Scent. It also comes with no damage and just 50% of shield. Use this to remove all debuffs from this Axie. Next is Watering Can, Aqua Stock. It has 45% of damage with 80% of shield. You will gain 1 energy if this Axie is struck by an aquatic card. Then next will be Mint, Refresh. It has no inflicting damage but have 50% of shield. It will remove all debuffs from a teammate if it's directly in front, same row, of this Axie. Lastly we have Pumpkin, October Treat. It also have no inflicting damage, with 115% of shield. It will draw a card if this Axie's shield doesn't break this round. Next plant part. We have the mouth. Led by Serious, Vegetal Bite. It has 30% of damage and another 30% of shield. It will steal 1 energy from your opponent when comboed with another card. Next is Zigzag, Drain Bite. With 55% of both damage and shield. Heal this Axie by the damage this card inflicts. Then we have Herbivore, Vegan Diet. It also have 65% of both damage and shield. Heal this Axie by the damage this card inflicts on a plant target. We also have Silence Whisper, Forest Spirit. With no damage and 40% of shield, it will heal front teammate for 190 HP. Finally, we're at the horn part. Let's start with Bamboo Shot, Bamboo Clan. With 80% damage and 70% of shield, it will increase 20% damage when chained with another plant card. Next is Beach, Wooden Stab. It has 105% of damage with 40% of shield. Deal 120% damage if this Axie's shield breaks. We also have Rosebud, Healing Aroma. With knee damage and just 40% of shield, this will heal this Axie for 120 HP. Next we have Strawberry Shortcake, Sweet Party. With no damage or shield, heal front teammate for 270 HP. If there are no front teammates, heal this Axie instead.
Then second to the last we have Cactus, Prickly Trap. With 110 damage, and only 20% of shield. Deal 120% damage if this Axie attacks last.
Lastly, we have Watermelon, Seed Bullet. Having 30% of both damage and shield, it will target the fastest enemy.
The buffs and debuffs in Axie Infinity.
Let's start with buffs, as there are only a few. Again, these are status modifiers positively affect the Axie that they are applied to. These are typically placed by an Axie on itself or its teammates.
We'll start with Attack Up. It will increase Axie's attack by 20%, and will stay until next attack. It's stackable. Next we have Morale Up. It increases the Axie's morale by 20%. For a designated time, it can stack. We also have Speed Up. It will increase the Axie's speed by 20%. For the next round, and it's stackable. Now that we have finished learning about buffs, we are now moving forward to discover its opposition, which are the debuffs. Unlike buffs, debuffs are status effects that will affect the Axies they were applied to negatively. First we have Aroma. The priority target will change on the affected Axie for the next round. Next is Attack Down. It will decrease the Axie's attack by 20%, and will stay until the next attack. It's stackable. We also have Chill. The affected Axie won't be able to enter the last stand for a designated time. On fourth we have Fear. The affected Axie can't attack for a designated time. Next is Fragile. The shield would take double damage for the next incoming attack. Then we have Jinx. The affected Axie won't be able to land critical hits for the next round. Then we have Lethal. The next hit against affected Axie is critical. Next is Morale Down. This will decrease morale for the next round, and it's stackable. And next is Poison. The affected Axies would lose 2 of their health points for every action, not until it's removed, and it's also stackable. We also have Sleep. The affected Axie won't be able to defend next time it is hit. Stays until Axie tries to attack. Next will be Speed Down. It will decrease the speed by 20% for the next round, and it's stackable. We also have Stench. The affected Axie will lose target priority for the next round. Lastly, we have Stun. Next attack would miss and the next incoming attack would ignore shields. Now check above the head of your Axie to identify the buffs of debuffs it has, just like the illustration on your screen.
Now let's talk about one of the most important part when playing Axie Infinity, the energy.
So how does energy works in Axie Infinity? Whenever you play an adventure or arena, it will cause you one of your energy. You will be able to see your energy on top left of your screens. Each adventure or arena battle costs 1 energy. You will need energy to earn Axie EXP in adventure, and rewards or SLP in arena. The maximum amount and the refill speed of energy depends on the number of Axies you own. On your screens you will see the designated or estimated time per owned Axies. out of energy or yet to have energy. Then you don't have to worry. There are nice things to do when you still don't have energy. First will be reconning of new ruins. It is the perfect time to try new ruins since they have a high rate of loss and you will not lose energy. If you can win it, you can spend your energy there, so you still have higher EXP. Second would be playing in arena. When you play in arena without energy you will not earn SLP, but what you will earn is the knowledge of your Axie. Try your skill combinations and plan your strategies. You can also earn SLP in adventure. You can earn SLP in adventure at a max of 50 SLP. Don't stop playing in adventure even if you don't have the energy. There are also 3 simple quests to be completed. You can claim a fixed 25 SLP every day by finishing all these quests. Now let's learn about the team roles in Axie Infinity. First we have the defender, tank. Every team needs a durable Axie in the front lines to absorb all the damage from the enemy. Plants and reptile unusually have bonuses that allows better survivability, so they are most suited in the role of tank. We also have the attackers or the damage dealers. Attackers focuses in dealing damage to the enemy. They usually have low health points and shield, so they need to stay behind a tank to survive. Beast and bird usually have cards that deals a good amount of damage as well as speed and morale bonuses. Here are some team setup in Axie Infinity. First example setup are made up of plant, beast and bird Axie. Second setup should be plant or reptile, beast and aqua. Then last should consist of plant, beast and beast. Now let's review what you've learned from watching this video. On the top left corner of your home screen, you will see the energy indicator. Then on the middle top you can see the daily quest that you will have to complete to earn extra 25 SLP. Then on the right side of your screens you will be able to see the 2 game mode, which is the adventure and the arena. And just below that you can see the leaderboard, battle logs, friends and also the settings. On the other side, on the lower left corner of your screen you can see where you can sync your Axies and build your teams. And beside that is the inventory, where you can find the SLP you've acquired. And on your card you can see the energy cost per card use, the number of damage and shield, and the status effects or the buffs and debuffs. Then when entering adventure mode, here's what you should do. First you have to select a level. Then review the number and type of monsters and stage rewards. You can also edit the Axies that would consist your team if you want to. Then after that, all you have to do is click start. You can earn up to 50 SLP per day in adventure mode. Now on the arena mode, based on the MMR or the matchmaking rating you will earn different amounts of SLP for each arena win. The higher your rank, the more rewards you will get per win. This is based on community calculations. The battle system works just the same for both game modes. You will lose if your opponent eliminate all of your Axies. Likewise, you will win once you eliminate all your opponent's Axie. And to do that, you will have to strategize before you make your moves. And that concludes our Axie Infinity guide. I hope you learned a lot, and picked up a few tips and tricks from this video, so that you will be able to play and enjoy Axie Infinity. That's all for this guide. Thank you.